Thank you very much. Hi from Berlin to the virtual world. Thank you very much to the organizers for giving us the opportunity, to get this best possible solution of this conference. Looking forward to coming to Sweden next time. But now this is how we go. I want to share results from an experimental field test in Germany. This talk is about the impact of cargo bike testing experience on vehicle perception, that is drivers and barriers, and purchase decisions. So how does testing affect the perception of the vehicle, basically? I want to say thanks to my colleagues from the Institute of Transport Research at DLR, with whom I work together on this research. So the underlying project is a large-scale cargo bike testing scheme that we conducted throughout Germany. Within our project, we offered cargo bikes to 750 companies and institutions from all business sectors, both for deliveries and service trips. In total, we tested 152 bikes of different makes and models. Here we see just 3 examples. And each participant tested the vehicle for 3 months. In total, the whole trial phase took more than 2 years. The first research question I want to answer is, what influence does long-term vehicle testing have on the perception of drivers and barriers regarding the use of cargo bikes? Secondly, we want to know which perceptions differ between subsequent buyers and non-buyers. And finally, I want to highlight implications for policymakers and industry. This analysis is based on data from 3 survey waves from close to 500 companies, participants. There were questionnaires before and after vehicle testing. Testers assessed 23 drivers and barriers on a 5-point scale to give the magnitude of these items. We've included a broad variety of items, operational aspects such as accessibility to restricted areas, also, of course, cost issues, maintenance cost, purchase cost, factors of the urban environment such as bike infrastructure, but also soft factors such as fun and image. It's important to know that the companies could not buy the bikes directly after testing. So 3 months after the test, we asked them again if they have purchased an own cargo bike in the meantime. And interestingly, 28% of the participants of this sample have bought an own cargo bike. In the whole sample, it's close to a bit over 30%. So this is quite an interesting side result. So we grouped them into buyers and non-buyers. The data was analyzed using a mixed ANOVA. A mixed ANOVA compares the mean differences between groups that have been split to one within subject factor. This is the time factor, the before-after testing, and one between subjects factor, which is the groups that we said, the buyers and the non-buyers. And this tool also allows us to detect possible interaction between these 2 factors. Let's start with the before-after comparison. So we see the list of drivers and barriers, 23 of them. Strong drivers are highlighted green, and also strong barriers are highlighted red or orange red. So what we see is that the drivers were rated with a high score before the test, and also quite similarly after the test. They remain constant. The top 3 drivers were flexibility with parking or flexible parking, image and health. On the other side, the barriers were rated moderately strong before the test, and significantly higher after the test. So we see kind of a deterioration of the perception how obstructive a certain barrier is. The strongest deterioration, so marked with double plus in the here in the table below, we can see barriers such as the bike infrastructure, the vulnerability to weather influence, safety, so road safety issues, loading capacity, and spatial coverage, basically the electric range of these vehicles. I'll talk about the implications of these findings in a short while. Right now, I also want to show first the main effects of the group factor, so bias versus non-bias, and also the interactions. Starting with the main effect of being part of the bias and non-bias group, we specifically look at those items that are significant, but that are not significant for an interaction. Those items should not be analyzed. For those items, the main effect should not be analyzed. So we see that several drivers show significant difference between the group of buyers and non-buyers. Many of these aspects concern operational aspects such as flexible parking, but also travel time reliability and accessibility. This is a hint that these operational aspects might be the true selling point of cargo bikes. Also, two barriers showed significant different ratings, or worse rating among the group of the non-buyers, what we cannot see directly from these figures here. So non-buyers rated the spatial coverage worse, significantly worse, but also the impact of weather. And then we also, if we look at these columns, we see that there are three aspects that where testing experience impacted more negatively the group of non-buyers compared to the buyers. So this is this interaction effect. There are three aspects were safety issues, image, and travel time. So for instance, for the safety issue, we found the same perceptions between the groups of buyers and non-buyers before testing. But after testing, or we could say during testing, the perception decreased much more amongst the non-buyer group. This should be a short talk, so I'm already coming to the conclusion of this spotlight of our research. To conclude, what we found is that long-term testing experience of bikes, of cargo bikes, has a significant influence on the perception of different factors. While the perception of drivers remain stable, we see significantly lower score of barriers. They were perceived as more obstructive after the test. So testing experience obviously leads to a more critical, but maybe then also more realistic assessment of pros and cons of cargo cycles. Looking at the example of traffic safety concerns that developed during the testing experience, we could address this issue, for instance, by good professional vehicle training, protective equipment, among others. Operational aspects might be the true selling points, as I said. Here we've seen significantly different perceptions between subsequent buyers and non-buyers. So what's there to do? What's the implication for policymakers and for the bike industry? We've seen through the test experience that several users perceived the bicycle infrastructure as being not suitable for cargo bikes. So this can be or should be addressed by providing better infrastructure that facilitates cargo bike use, separate and wider lanes, for instance, and also provide secure and state-of-the-art intersection design. Policymakers should also support and emphasize the operational potentials, for instance, by setting up spaces for cargo bike parking or loading unloading, or granting accessibility in urban centers, for instance, in one-way streets or pedestrian zones. But always important is that also decreasing the privileges of the conventional vehicles. So decreasing car space, for instance, also this naturally will support cargo bikes' operative advantages. And messages for the cycling industry could be that the vehicle concepts are still not mature enough. We have gone a long way developing electric cargo bikes, but still there are improvements in concerning technical aspects and usability aspects, like weather protection, what we found actually quite critical, loading capacity, managing of the payload, but also security of the payload and better driving range. So this is a short overview for a moment. If there's time, there's some backup slide. Otherwise, I'm happy for discussing with the audience. Thank you very much.